Welcome to another Northern Monkeys video. This time we're delving into something that I think is quite fun. Space Marines, they've got a lot of characters, they've got a lot of cool units available, and I want to delve into some of the unique kind of characters that they have that just don't really see play on the tabletop, not in battle reports that I see, or kind of in my gaming spaces. And these are some units that I think are great, but they fall victim to the classic Marine kind of oversaturation in terms of stuff. So let's take a look at one of my personal favorites, Pedro Kantor. So let's talk about the datasheet first of all. On the surface, Pedro Kantor, relatively unassuming. So he's 90 points, so you're looking at 10 points more than your standard captain. He's got movement 6, toughness 4, 5 wounds, sort of all what you'd expect. We'll see, completely the same as your normal hero stat line for Space Marines. However, he does have a 2-up save, which I think is nice. Kind of in an era where you got Armor of Contempt and things like that, it can be surprisingly spiky. And the 2+ save is complemented by the 6-up Feel No Pain. It just means that, say your opponent does, 6 damage to this guy with a few 2 damage attacks or whatever. There's just a little chance that he might live, shrug off some of those. So yeah, really nice. I remember back many editions ago when I used to play this guy, the downside used to be that he only had normal power armor, not artificer armor, and he only had, he didn't have Eternal Warrior, which was the old special rule that stopped you from dying to a single hit. So it kind of made him a little lackluster in that respect back then. But now he's got it all. Don't know when this change happened, but thanks Games Workshop, it really turns him up a notch. Now, first off, whenever you're looking at a character, what you really want to look at is his kind of abilities. That's usually where a lot of the strength comes from. And Pedro Kantor's got 2 fairly good ones. His To the Last ability, you see this sort of on a few different characters and like banner bearers and things like that in various army. But when he's leading a unit, you add 1 to their hit rolls if they've lost a model, and you add 1 to the wound rolls if they're below half strength. Now, this it's a bit of an awkward rule to use because it requires you kind of have a big unit and you've got to lose some guys, but like not too many. But I think it's it's surprisingly strong. One thing that is kind of good is a lot of units tend to, if they've got special weapons, like I'm going to talk later about Stern Guard, but this applies to other units as well. Let's say you've got like 2 heavy bolters in that unit and then a power fist on the sergeant. Those are often like more valuable than the rest of the stuff that comes out of that unit put together. So when you do get below half strength, you're actually still keeping a lot of your efficiency. So I think it's an underrated ability, especially on larger units and durable larger units that like Marines can be. And now his other ability, Oath of Rynn, sort of once per battle, you declare it at the start of either player's command phase, which is a nice quality of life for him. And until the next command phase, they add 1 to their attacks characteristic. Now, I was the first when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's like the Blade Guard Ancient ability. It's a bit meh. But it's actually just any weapon equipped by that unit. So you get a real benefit there of just anything that's got good shooting and good melee. It's going to really benefit from that ability, and it just allows you to have like a big go turn where you really pump up the damage with this guy's unit. So it's kind of fun, and a lot of 40k, like there's been loads of times where everything's really been decided by these alpha strike abilities. So, and having like a big potential 1 knockout punch is good. And even though it's only once per battle, the rest of his datasheet is solid. Moving on to his output, I think it's surprisingly good. All of this will benefit from his ability to get +1 to hit, which probably won't matter much, but he also gets the extra attack. So Dorn's arrow here can between 2 and 5 shots, depending on his ability and rapid fire range. But it's got sustained hits, AP 1, damage 2. It's a solid gun. So you can, you definitely get some good value out of that. You'll chip off an odd wound off a Space Marine and do a bit of damage with it. But his real thing is the Fist of Retribution. 5 attacks, 6 attacks if he's activated his ability. It hits on 2s, strength 8, and then it's AP 3, 3 damage. I really did not expect to see that when I was looking through this guy's datasheet. Like, it's got both the boosted versions of a fist, so that's really good. This guy will punch through Terminators and even, like, you know, Marines with feel no pains, things like that. I know a lot of people are sort of hyping up Vanguard veterans with Sanguinary Priests in them, so they'd be very durable, but not when this guy gets his hand on them. So yeah, good data sheet, solid to look at. Let's take a look at some potential combos for who he's going to join. So he can join 4 different units. We're just going to talk through them in the order here and kind of my thoughts on him joining them. Company of Heroes. It's a weird unit. I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice for Pedro Kantor. You know, have a decent OC, a bit of shooting, a bit of melee. They benefit well enough from his Oath of Rhine. But honestly, it's a bit of a strange unit. And it's probably fine with him in. But I'm not just sure how valuable that unit is. I haven't personally ever played it or seen it played. But while I think it would be good with Pedro, I don't think it's the best choice. Blade Guard veterans seems great with him, you know, giving them all +1 attack. That's really, really cool. And yeah, I think he would totally work like rocking around with a squad of Blade Guard veterans. He'd definitely help them out. However, the one thing I'd say is a downside is they don't really get the most out of his Oath of Rhine ability because they only have pistols, and sure, they'd have 12 pistol shots to join in with him, but you know, it's not the best. And then at the same time, I think he will kind of be outclassed here by other options, because when you take Pedro Kantor, that's your sub-faction. You become Crimson Fists. So you can't take any other characters or anything like that, or units from other Space Marine codexes. So it's a lot to ask. And I just think characters like Adrax Hagatone and the like are just better for leading Blade Guard. The Tech Squad, I mean, sure, you could put him in with them, but I don't think it really fits him. And, you know, the squad is just very meh. And also, he benefits from buffing a big unit, so you would invalidate their combat squad ability. It's just not good. However, he could ride in a Rhino with them because he doesn't have a Tacticus keyword, so that's something. And then the last unit I'm going to talk about more in depth now, the Stern Guard. This is what you want. So the Stern Guard veterans, they're who I think Pedro should be with. Not just because many, many years ago I used to have a Space Marine army with Pedro Kantor and I'd run loads of Stern Guard veterans in drop pods. But I do genuinely think that this is the squad to go with him. So the 90 points for 5. You probably want to put 10 of them with Pedro, so it's a big investment at the end of the day. You're talking 270 points for this, but you're actually going to get a fair amount out of it. So you'd probably want to have a sergeant with a power fist and 2 guys with their heavy bolters, and then the rest of them you probably just want to go with the Stern Guard bolt rifle. I think this is better than the combi weapon in most scenarios, just because of the volume it gets. So looking at their ability, they reroll wound rolls of 1 onto the Oath of Moment target. That's fine for Pedro, you know, that big fist that he's attacking with. You'd love to get to reroll the wound rolls of 1 that you accidentally whiff with. So yeah, that's nice. And when he joins them, they just have an insane volume of shots. You know, over 90, getting close to 100 attacks. If these guys come out, shoot in rapid fire range, while with Pedro's ability active, and then charge in, it's an insane amount of volume. And all the shooting attacks, they have devastating wounds, so all those extra attacks that you get, it's just going to chip down almost anything, especially if you've lost 1 veteran somehow, that'd be great, and you've got that +1 to hit. Everything can potentially be hitting on 2s, re-rolling, wounding on 3s or 4s, re-rolling, or even if it's on 6s. You know, you get some really good output of these guys. Particularly, I think in the Gladius detachment, you've got the Storm of Fire stratagem, which is fantastic because they essentially ignore cover and +1 AP, in the Dev Doctrine. That's great. It essentially turns those Sternguard bolt rifles and the heavy bolter and Dorn's arrow even all the way up to kind of being AP3 against an enemy that's in cover. So that's really nice. And then the Honor the Chapter stratagem. I found this to be surprisingly good. I got some Sternguard and Leviathan, I was sort of testing them out, and actually found that because they have 4 attacks each on their close combat weapons in melee, and if you use the Honor the Chapter stratagem on them, it gives them Lance and it gives them +1 AP if you're in the Devastator Doctrine. So their guns naturally have Assault. So all of a sudden they become like really quite dangerous to just sort of run up to an enemy and all of a sudden deliver a bunch of like lots of +1 to wound, re-rolling wound rolls of 1, attacks, and they all get AP1 if you're in the the Assault Doctrine. So yeah, I think that's really a really cool combo. I'd like to. It's something I'm working on putting together and playing myself a bit more aggressively. Just because I think it'd be really cool. And getting Pedro on the field, why not? He's an absolutely amazing character. He's had some great moments in the lore. And I think I'm glad that Games Workshop are still like supporting this character, even though he's got a sort of out of production temporarily metal model. You know, it's still a great model, and yeah. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It's been the first video in the Forgotten Heroes series for the Space Marines. Yeah, I'm gonna make a few more, see how it goes, and like and subscribe if you want to see more. Maybe comment your who you want to see talked about.